Welcome to the In Her Power podcast. My name is Kerri-Ann. I'm an empowerment coach, a yoga teacher, and a Reiki master. But most importantly, I am a human being and a spiritual being just like you. I created this podcast to bring more awareness, more tools, and more insights into you being in your power, to really help you to step truly into your authentic self. I have been on a journey of personal growth and expansiveness for over 10 years now. The reason I do this work to help amazing women like yourself is because I have seen how powerful it is to live from a place of authenticity, both personally and for my clients. If you are here listening to this podcast, then I imagine you're curious to learn more, or maybe you feel stuck and don't know where to start or how to get through something. Or maybe you've had this kind of itching feeling that there's more to your life than your current reality. I'm going to tell you, embrace the curiosity. Embrace the curiosity that is wanting to emerge here and step into expansiveness. In this episode, I have a very short conversation with Debra Reeves. And that's because before we started recording, we were just chit-chatting about life and then realizing that we'd used a bunch of the time up. So this is a really short episode, and I promise I'm going to bring Debra back to really expand on her wisdom and knowledge. Debra is a professional intuitive and reader of Akashic Records, and she does so much more. I actually got to personally go through a cord cutting ceremony with her that was extremely, extremely powerful. So enjoy my conversation with Debra Reeves. Okay, today I'm really excited about this episode. I'm excited about every episode, but today's guest is Debra Reeves. And Debra is a professional intuitive and reader of, I always pronounce this wrong, by the way, Akashic Records. I might have said it right this time. I got yay! And really connected with the spirit. And what I love about what we're going to really talk about today, and Debra has like years of experience with this, including when I was reading through her bio, including being introduced to a poltergeist, which actually I have a story from my childhood that I think it was a poltergeist. I've always felt there was something, but what I'm really excited about, why Debra is here today, and why I want to talk with her and share her wisdom with you, is she brings such a different approach in this journey of really coming into your power. As I've said before, there are so many different methodologies to do this, to come and connect with your true self, your most authentic self, and from that place is so powerful. And Debra brings such a different approach, and I've actually had an opportunity to work with her on some cord cutting things and doing some awesome healing for me and awakening me to something so much deeper within myself that I didn't even know was there. So thank you, Debra, for being here today.
My pleasure.
So my first question I want to ask you is, what does it mean to you to be in your power?
So for me, I guess, can I give my story first? Because I think that it kind of explains why I believe what I believe. I can't really extract my beliefs out of my story.
No,
so my story hit when I was in my last year of university. I was a fresh young 20-year-old. I moved into a share house with 4 other housemates, and it just happened to be very haunted, this house. So it took a number of months for us to all work out that it actually wasn't a flatmate who was slamming the door in the middle of the night so that the whole house shook. It was actually something else. So over that year that I lived in that house, things escalated, and it got to the point where I needed to turn on all of my intuitive gifts in order to know where this poltergeist was at all times for self-preservation. So my life took a very, very interesting turn in that year, and I ended up reactivating all of my intuitive gifts so that I could see her, I could feel her, I could sense where she was in the room at all times. literally for self-preservation, because she would do things like move things on the mantelpiece. She'd come up and she'd hit you. And she would be very threatening. She wanted us to know that she was the boss of the house and we were just visitors. So one of the housemates that I lived with has since returned to this house, and she's still pulling the same stuff with every group that goes through. So she wanted to know who was boss. So everyone in the house experienced her in a different way, and it absolutely taught me that there is incontrovertible proof of the spirit realm. This isn't just our imagination. Earthbound spirits, ghosts absolutely exist. And so from there, I realized that I was a spirit in a physical form, and that realization flipped everything for me. It made me realize that I'm so much more than my physical body, and that I have this amazing multi-dimensional universe at my fingertips that I can access with a thought.
Wow.
So from there, Kerri-Ann, after that experience, I ended up traveling for 5 years. So I traveled through Asia and the Near East, working in different countries. So that kind of blew my mind, because from there, when you live in countries, I lived for 18 months in Japan, for instance. I lived for 9 months in India. I lived in Cairo for 5 months. Once you've done that, you realize there is not one way of thinking. Every culture thinks that their way is the way that, that you think.
Yep.
And so when you've changed borders often enough, you just go, there is no one way. Everybody has a way. That every religion has a part of the story, but nobody has the whole story.
No, it's very
so
true.
It just made me, over the span of 5 years, very, very curious, and I just became fascinated by humankind and the way that humankind make choices, and how we create what we think, and then we say that is the only way of being.
Very true.
So my understanding of purpose is very, very different to what most people's are, because I don't believe that there is one way. I believe that we, as souls in a physical body, have an incredible amount of potential. We are, as our essential selves, the truth of who we are is this amazing multi-dimensional being in a physical body. So we have the potential to do whatever we want. We are limited by our beliefs. We're limited by our thoughts, and that's built up over time. We have our childhood, and then we have the experiences that we have in adulthood that's shut us down. We have generational patterns, and then we have past life. So this is all kind of accumulated. But as our essential selves, we are healed, whole, and complete.
So true.
So for us to be an empowered woman, we just have to remember that, and we have to keep coming back to that truth, and not get too tied up in the stories.
Yep. And it's so easy to get tied up in stories, as you said, because of those thoughts and just start to create this great narrative, and then you start living that out. You don't even
Yeah,
realize
exactly.
that you lived it out. So
Mm.
when you support your own clients through
Hmm.
this journey,
Hmm.
what kind of tools, or how do you start, I guess, them on this journey of like
Yeah. So,
discovering their true essence?
mhm. Yeah. So I'll backtrack and then I'll go forward again.
No worries.
So I started out with the poltergeist. Then when I was traveling, I basically started meeting the earthbound spirits in every place I went. They'd come and sit on the bed and start talking to me. Then I met my Reiki master and ended up training with him to my master level. And this opened me up to energy and the ability to transcend time and space. Reiki, you can send at distance to wherever you want.
Mhm.
It gives you that ability to stop being limited by the earth plane. So then I started talking to my spirit guides. I started talking to ascended masters. I started talking to angels and archangels and gods and goddesses most recently. Then I learned how to access the Akashic Records. So the Akashic Records are a virtual library, I like to call it.
Mhm.
It's an amazing resource. It holds a record of everybody's soul, past, present, and future. So by accessing that record, we can understand who we are on a soul level. We can understand the soul gifts and urges that each of us come to the earth plane to explore. It gives us those past lives that are impacting us, the residues that we're trying to
Mhm.
resolve in this lifetime. And it gives us our life lessons. So the life lessons are actually what life is all about. So my understanding is that when we're in spirit, we we write a sacred contract, and in that sacred contract we choose our parents, our siblings, our partners. All the major life events are kind of chosen in order to complete the life lessons. Absolutely everything in life is around those life lessons, and the life lessons are not a punishment, they're not karma, they are purely for our soul's growth.
Mm.
So it's the earth isn't a prison. We're not sent here, to suffer. We're,
Yeah.
we're actually here to learn. It's more like a kindergarten than
Yeah.
anything. We're
Oh,
supposed to be frolicking amongst the grass and learning
yeah.
as we go.
I mean, they have that phrase, the school of life, like being in
Yes,
life, you're in school.
yes,
So let me
yes.
ask you this about, like, when you talk about your soul's lessons, and
Hmm.
in terms of the journey people go on, or in terms of using the Akashic, I said it right, I think,
Yes.
again,
Hmm.
records. I haven't had this before. I've heard of it so many times, so this is really still very new to me.
Hmm.
Um, so during a reading, do you find, like, you help them find what that is, and then they know, okay, I'm just working through this in my life?
Yeah, so an Akashic record reading is it pretty much takes all the guesswork out of it. It's an 8 to 12 page reading that I do prior to the session, and then the session is it's a conversation like we're having now, where
Mhm.
I'll read sections of the reading and then we'll discuss it. So it can be processed and sort of begin to get integrated.
Mhm.
It's a massive it's like all the things you know about yourself, Kerri-Ann, all written down in one place.
Mhm.
So it takes all that guesswork out of it. You can no longer go, I think I might want to do this line of work, but I'm not really sure. It'll give you specifics, and it is absolutely so accurate. It's frightening.
Well, how does someone know it's accurate for them? Again, because we get so stuck in our mind that. We're like,
Oh, it's
again,
hilarious. It tells you things that you know about yourself that you've never said out loud.
mm,
So it's all of that. It's your soul gifts. It's the things that you're good at, and it's the things that are your soul urges. Those areas in life where you feel compelled, that calling. It's all of
mhm.
those things that you can't quite put your finger on, but
Yeah, yeah. You have like a feeling, right?
Yeah.
Have you
Yep.
ever had someone that you've done a reading for them and seen it, and they're like, they're not ready to step in and believe it?
Hmm. I've never had a reading that wasn't accurate. I have had people um, read it and not implement it.
Okay.
And that's free will. That's the joys
Hmm.
of free will.
Hmm. I just imagine
Mm.
again, because we talk a lot about the mind and the beliefs is what
Oh,
really
yeah.
inhibits us.
Hmm.
And sometimes so many people are set in their beliefs. But I also think it takes a really open mind, and this is just from my observation and work with my own clients, to get to that point where I would even do a reading.
Yes. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
And when you're at that point, you're ready to use the information, aren't you?
Yeah,
If
yeah.
you're going to invest in an
Mhm,
Akashic record reading, then you want that information and you want to be able to use it in life.
mhm, mhm,
I actually, in the preparation material that I send people, because it's such a massive reading, I give them kind of an idea of what we're going to look at. I ask them categorically whether they are going to be committed to their soul's growth.
mm. Yeah.
So I get that commitment out of them before the reading even
Okay.
occurs.
Okay. Yeah.
Mhm.
So once you get a reading, and like you
Yes.
said,
Yeah.
some people don't always implement. What stops
Mm.
them from the implementation?
Mm. Um, Gosh, it would be so person to person.
Mhm.
I would imagine a lot of it is denial, which comes out as too busy.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Well, isn't that the grieving process? If you think you have this one identity, you believe to who you are, and then you're
Hmm.
told on a soul level, this is actually who you are. There's a part of a
Hmm.
grieving process of letting go of the identity you've been playing out to fully step into the one that's true.
Hmm.
Like I do
Hmm.
that in my own work. When we find a belief that's not serving them from their childhood,
Hmm.
most of them started in the first 7 years of life. I
Hmm.
mean, my clients and myself included just have tears, and they'll the first time they have this experience, they go, "Why am I crying?" I'm like, "Because you
Hmm.
are grieving an old part of an old identity, so you can
Hmm. Yep.
fully step into a new one."
Hmm. But you'll know this as well, Kerri-Ann. Most of us aren't afraid of our, of staying in our small self. We're afraid of that stepping into our power.
Yeah, yeah,
We're afraid of honoring the truth of who we are and having to live it.
yeah, yeah.
Your Akashic record reading shows you in your absolute power. It
Mhm.
shows you your highest path and purpose, and the woman you are, not who you're meant to be, the woman you are.
Yeah, yeah.
So that can
Beautiful.
be incredibly scary for some
Totally, and
people.
it goes
It
back
doesn't
to that.
fit into words.
Yeah, it goes back to that identity. What's been familiar has, you know,
Mm.
ideally kept you safe. You know how to operate in the world, and when
Yeah,
you
yeah.
change it, it's like those prisoners that get
Mm.
released and almost intentionally
Yeah,
put themselves back in a prison because
yeah.
they don't know how to really operate in the
Mm.
normal world.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So,
Yeah. My group was kind of developed to give women a space, a vehicle where they could step into their power and express themselves and their truth from a place of power, as
mm,
opposed to complaining and staying in that lower self.
yeah, yeah.
Really pushing outside of those comfort zones.
Yep. Yep. Actually, I love your
Mm.
group, the Soulful
Oh, thank
Sister Revolution. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more about that and like what's
yeah,
happening
yeah.
within that. It's such a great
Mm.
community.
Yeah. Also, the premise of the group is basically that every single woman in the world, if we believed in our own worth, our own potential, and our own life, living our life on purpose, the world would be a better place.
Hmm. Hmm.
So so I'm not speaking to the broken self. I'm not speaking to that the
Hmm.
wounded part of us. I'm saying we are all imperfectly perfect. We are all human, and let's just honor our humanness, and let's just celebrate who we are, and giving them a forum to speak their truth. Because you know you'll know this too, Kerri-Ann. So many of us feel like little beacons of light in a sea of darkness. We don't have like-minded people around us,
Yep.
and so we need a community. We need to feel
Yep.
seen and heard and
Hmm.
acknowledged
Hmm.
for who we are. Yeah.
I agree with you there because that's why I have my own community as well. And I love
Yep.
we've talked about this. We have similar kind of outcomes that we want for,
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
know, women to really find their most authentic self and to live from that place.
Mm.
How the world would be so different if millions of women were like this. Um,
Yeah.
so I love that. And again, that we have different methodologies and approaches, and there's many of us
Mhm.
out there, and that will help, help the whole, not just
Mm.
women in the world, but also men. I mean, because there's a lot
Yeah,
out there
absolutely.
working with men and then working with both and whatnot, which is so beautiful.
Mm.
Um, I wanted to ask you, and I'm trying to remember the question now, to be honest.
Damn.
I know. It's going to come
Yeah.
to me. I hate that. It's also late at night here for me and early in the morning, not quite early in the
Yeah.
morning, but fairly mid morning for you. So I'm a little bit
Yeah.
brain dead. But let's talk a little bit about some of the services that you provide. You talked about the
Yeah.
Akashic Records, but
Mhm.
I know personally the cord cutting and how
Mhm.
that really
Yes.
supported me. So if
Mhm.
you want to talk a little bit
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have one-to-one sessions. I have the readings, for example, the Akashic record reading. And then I have 5-day challenges and programs. So the one-to-one sessions are the way I work is to give you the tools to help yourself. I'm not going
Mhm.
to tell you anything, and it really pisses a lot of women off in the group because I always go, they'll throw out a question, and I'll go, I don't know. What do you think?
Mhm. Yeah.
I just will not give people the answer.
Mm.
I'll let them unpack it for themselves. I'll give
Mhm.
them the tools. So all of my, the readings give them that soul level stuff, and then they need to unpack it.
Mhm.
The one-to-one sessions, I'll walk people into spirit. I will guide them in, but they are using their sight, their
That was something
their
that I appreciated
intuitive
about you
gifts.
because I've worked with, and there's no judgment. I've worked with other, intuitive professionals and people who are connected to spirit, and I've gotten a
Mhm,
lot out of that experience as well.
mhm.
Um, but it was really interesting doing the cord cutting. I thought that you would like tell me like
Yeah,
what you're hearing from
yeah,
spirit, but you were like,
yeah.
you challenged me to pull it myself. And I felt like that was such a more powerful experience.
Mm, mm.
Does that make sense?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. It's always going to be more empowering for you if someone else doesn't take over the process for you.
Mhm.
So
Do you
any
ever
of my
try to guide it when they're like, "I don't know, nothing's there."
oh
And you're
yeah,
feeling
I
are
have
do you feel like, there's something there in their heart or there's something there?
yeah, I because I am, I'm checking in constantly. in order to guide properly, I'm using my energy to raise the energy of the client so that they can see more, hear more, and be more focused. The concentration level, it is exhausting. So by combining my energy, I can assist them so they'll have a much more profound experience than if they were trying to do it by themselves, for instance.
Yeah.
I try not to give leading questions, but the way that I guide is completely intuitive. I am constantly, I'm being told what to say most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very much, yeah. I'm guiding, yeah. But I try not to tell people what to think. I try not to sabotage their own process. If I am guided by what the client tells me that they can see, they can hear, what they can feel is, super important. And then I will guide them further.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. So that's the sessions. And then the programs are giving you the spiritual and the physical, emotional, mental, spiritual tools, that we can use in life. Yeah. I teach an embodied spirituality, so I don't teach leaving the body and going off floating into spirit. So many of us have we've lost all feelings and sensations in our bodies. So many of us are, we're numb from the neck down.
Yep.
And this is particularly true in the spiritual community because we've been told to focus on those upper chakras. So from the heart upwards, we're switched on. We're super activated. We can pop out and talk to angels or spirit, but we have no feeling.
Interesting.
From the waist down.
It's interesting because I call him my magic doctor here, but because he's certified in Western medicine, but also has studied a lot of Eastern medicine. I just think he's magical. But we were talking about this because here in Brazil, they're so like Western culture. We're from the waist up. And in Brazil, they're from the waist down, the way they move, the way they we were just talking about how energy and why for me, I have so much stuff from the waist down, so much tightness. He's like, 'cause you don't move it and you're always here and you're not in your body like there. And so it's been, and I think it's one of the reasons why I was called to be here, to start being more in my body, and healing the waist down, the lower three chakras. Yeah. Very interesting.
So they'll be very grounded.
Yeah. Grounded
very earthy people.
In a city with ocean and mountains. I just feel like I've got all this
wow.
energy flowing all the time. But I love it, I do love it. So I was also thinking about I keep having these great questions, and I should have brought a pen and paper and to write them down. So we have these fun conversations, and I know that we have to wrap it up here shortly. And I love having this conversation with you. What I would love at some point too is to talk about, because thinking about my own story actually, especially about the poltergeist. As a child, I always saw things and heard things, especially in our second house growing up, which we built the house on a piece of land. They were trying to build 300 homes, and I don't know if they ever reached that, but it was supposed to be a lot of homes on this property to be developed. And we were one of the first, and there were so many weird things, Debra, that happened. Like I could hear someone coming up the stairs from the basement, and one time I heard the cat meowing. I thought the cat was out the door, and the cat was not out of my bedroom door. And then later realized the cat wasn't even in the house. How did I hear the cat? There were just weird things all the time. Actually, one weird thing, I used to have to walk from the bus stop. I used to have to walk like a fourth of a mile up a hill. And one time It sounded like the whole land, something was happening.
Mm, mm. Yeah,
Spirits.
exactly.
But I
Mm,
felt like a herd of animals were coming at me. I could hear it. And I was
mm, mm,
because I would run into moose and bear all the time while walking
mm.
home. And
Wow.
but I thought a herd of animal coming, and literally like my whole adrenals got kicked in, and I was looking and just waiting for this to come out of the forest, and then poof, it was just silent. I was like,
Wow.
what was that? Like weird things like that used to happen.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was so real for me that I was like, no, I'm
Mm,
not making it up. Like
yeah.
that for me was that start. And then a couple of
Mm,
years ago, I started to get whispers of stuff. And mostly I get
mm,
people like my grandmother or a friend from college
mm,
who passed away. Like I get messages, and sometimes I get hits. I also do Reiki,
mm,
and I was doing Reiki for um, a family member once, and literally the hit was, "You can't support them right now. They have to be on their own journey." I was like, I what? I can't support them? No, you gotta hold back and let them do this. And it was like, okay, and it's hard, And I started to talk to people about these experiences, and of course, I had a few that were
mm,
like, I don't know, but I had a lot that were like, okay, I believe you. I don't know if I believe in this stuff, but I believe you. I'm like, okay, but it's been
yeah.
it's been a fun journey to tap back in, and
Mm,
as I come back into my body, specifically as we talked about,
mm,
and the
mm,
more I come back into my body and get out of my head, I
mhm,
hear more, and not necessarily
mm,
voices or guides, and I hear more from my inner intuition,
mm.
and I
Yeah.
may not always know, like we were talking about before we started recording, that I'm like,
Mm,
I've got a ping right now. I think something's not right. I don't know what it is, but it's like,
mhm,
and I don't need to panic. I'm also hearing, don't
mm,
panic, but
mm.
just be open,
Yeah.
you know,
Yes. Yeah.
some information is coming,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and also I don't know. I just keep listening, and I feel like my diet is changing because of it. I don't know if you've noticed that
Mm,
with your clients, like all of a sudden, as they're
mm,
tuning into their body.
mm. Everything
Yeah.
changes.
Yes.
And it happens naturally as well. You're not making that conscious choice and then having to fight yourself to do it. It just happens naturally.
No, it's
Yeah.
like I'm craving different foods, and it's not
Mm,
necessarily like,
mm.
candy and soda. It's like, I want mango.
Yeah.
I want papaya. I want a salad. I
Mm.
want, and
Yeah.
it's interesting now. It's
Nice.
like, sugar makes me feel disgusting. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and my mind is
Yeah.
like, but just the other day you loved it. Now you don't like it.
Yeah,
Does
exactly.
that make sense?
So what I tell my clients, Kerri-Ann, is that the first priority for any spiritual growth, for any of the soul's growth, is to reconnect with your physical body. That's the
Hmm.
first priority. Because as you say, the minute that you start reactivating those feelings and sensations in your body, you start actually receiving more intuitive hits. And
Hmm.
it's not because they're suddenly happening, it's because you are receiving them now. we
Hmm.
we are all, we all receive a stream of information all day every day. But when our bodies are numb, when we
Hmm.
can't feel the feelings and sensations in our
Yeah.
body, when we're not connected to our heart, our purest center, our connection to source, our
Hmm.
heart,
Hmm.
when we don't pay attention to the gut instinct, to those butterflies in the stomach, to the sinking feeling, to all those intuitive nudges that we receive in our bodies,
Hmm.
we just don't get any of that, and we
Yeah.
and we are given the false impression that this is what life is.
Yeah.
Life is numb, shut down. We need to stay small, we need to protect, we need to um, the world is an adversarial place,
Hmm.
where nobody cares about us. All of those belief systems get put in place, and to shed those, all we need to do is come home. We need to come home to self,
Yeah.
come
Yeah.
to come
For
home to
sure.
our body.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah,
I remembered
yeah.
one of my questions. I know we have just a couple minutes.
Yes.
One of the
Yes.
questions was about past lives.
Mm-hmm.
What sort of work or healing do you do around like that past life that keeps showing up,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe it shows up
Mm.
not so detailed? Like, for
Mm-hmm.
example, recently something from a past life came up for me that it felt like lots of anger that I'm carrying in my body that is not,
Mm-hmm.
it's from a past life. It's not this current life. Does that
Mm-hmm.
make sense?
Is there an instance in this life where it's been triggered? How did it come up?
I was doing a Reiki session on myself on a pain that's kind of near my liver bladder area.
Mm-hmm.
And it just like an image, and it felt like I was like this, and I just felt this was me in a past life,
Mm.
and
Okay.
it's a woman
Yeah.
raging, and I was like,
Yeah.
wow.
And did you rage? Did you get it out? Did you release it?
I did get a lot, but there's still some there. There's still a
Mm.
dull, like
Mm.
there's a big rage. Does that make
Mm.
sense? So I
Yep.
haven't released
Mm-hmm.
it all yet.
Yep. Yep. So my understanding is that our physical bodies store the energy that we can't, or that we are not emotionally mature enough to resolve at the time. You know, the everything's stored in our physical bodies, and that's from our past lives, our generational patterns,
Hmm.
and our current lives. And our current lives are really handy because they trigger us and they
Yep.
give us opportunities to look at all of those. You know, triggers for me are opportunities for growth. They're not ever seen as a negative. They're always, oh, look at
Yep.
this. Here
Yep.
we
Yep.
go.
Same here.
Let's have a look.
Yep.
What's going on? Why did I just get triggered?
Yep.
And I do a body scan. I look within my body. I feel into the feelings and sensation as you did. You know, you find that lump, that
Yep.
you know, that area in your body where it's being held, and then you release it. So
Hmm.
you could dance,
Hmm.
you could scream into a pillow, preferably not
Which is
freak out the
that's what I did. I screamed into a pillow.
the so quite often we don't even need to know the source of it. We don't need to
Hmm.
drag out the memories.
Yep.
We just need to feel it. We just
Yep.
need to release it as pure energy or as a feeling. So for you, for the past life that you're referring to, you've
Hmm.
seen the woman. You know that she's in anguish and anger,
Hmm.
and underneath all of that, you'll scream yourself, and then underneath that there's probably going to be so much sadness, so
Yeah,
much
for
grief.
sure.
Something happened that absolutely ripped her apart,
Yep.
and
Yep.
so you'll have to go through that,
Well, it's
and then
interesting.
underneath that there'll be peace, there'll be calm.
It's interesting because yesterday, so this, let's see, this was on Monday, right? And then
Hmm.
I want to say it was like Monday, but yesterday I woke up and had so much grief, and I was like
Mm.
crying and crying,
Mm.
And
Mm.
again,
Yeah,
your mind sometimes go, well, why is this grief? Is this grief coming from? And sometimes I'm like,
yeah,
okay, mind, it doesn't matter where it came from. Let's
yeah,
just get it out.
yeah,
Let's just feel
yeah,
it out.
exactly.
Mhm. So,
Yeah, yeah,
well,
yeah.
I want to thank you because we are running out of
Much,
time here. So thank you so much. Just quickly, how can people
much,
reach you if they want more information? Of course, I'll include all your links in the show
yeah,
notes, but
yeah. Um,
your
that's
website?
entirely up to you, Kerri-Ann, whatever you feel comfortable
Okay. I
sharing.
mean,
Yeah,
DebraReeves.com. I'll share your
yeah.
Facebook group. So
Oh,
if there
thanks.
are women that want
Yeah,
to check it out, I definitely
sure.
recommend, if if this information resonates with you, join that community, start surrounding yourself with those people and getting curious with yourself as well and feeling safe to be in that space. So
Mm.
anyways, thank you
Thanks,
so much,
Kerri-Ann.
Debra, and
Mwah.
I'd love to have you on again in the future.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. No.
So I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Debra Reeves. All the information on how to learn more about her will be in the show notes. And before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a reflective question. This is an opportunity for you to learn more about yourself, to kind of go deeper within yourself. So here's the question for this episode. have you ever connected with the spirit realm? Now, take some time to really think about this because you might not recall a memory, but just think about, did anything kind of out of the ordinary happen that might have been like the spirit realm connecting with you? So take some time to reflect, maybe even journal about it. As I've said before, it's such a great opportunity to learn more about yourself. And when you learn more about yourself, you're empowering yourself. You know yourself on such a deeper, authentic level. Now, this podcast is a gift. And if you're interested in supporting this work, please use the link in the show notes to make a contribution. You can make a one-time contribution or a reoccurring contribution. And if at this point there's no contribution you can make, that doesn't mean anything because you're all worthy of receiving this information, whether you can support it or not. Please know this to be true. Also, if you haven't already, please feel free to join my Facebook community called In Her Power. It's a beautiful group of women doing this work, diving deeper, getting to know ourselves, living from our authentic space, right? Our authentic truth, and feeling really safe doing it. And again, I'll put all these links in the show notes. That is it for this episode. I want you to remind you of the African word Ubuntu, which is spelled Ubuntu, Ubuntu, which means I am because we are. Beijos.